So what are layer masks? Layer masks are nothing but they control the visibility. What area is visible, what area is not visible. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what layer masks cover. For example, here I have an image. Example is the best way to understand the thing. Alright, so here I have an image of a bodybuilder, and above that I have a texture image, right? Now, is my audio right? Just let's go ahead and... Okay. Is the audio good? Okay. So here I have an image of a bodybuilder and I have an image of a texture. So I love the texture image. So let's go ahead and decrease the opacity of the texture image. Now, it's looking fine, it's looking awesome, but you don't want the texture image on the person. Here's what you do. You use layer masks. So to create a layer mask, click on this layer mask icon. The icon is just like a rectangle. Inside it, there's a circle. Just click on that icon and this creates a layer mask. Now, take the brush and fill the area that you want to make invisible black. Okay, so take the brush, make sure the foreground color is black, and the areas that you paint with black, those areas disappear, right? Just like this, have a look. Those areas just disappear, have a look. So this is the before without the layer mask. This is with the layer mask. What's actually happening is, if I go ahead and turn off this layer, and if I increase the opacity of this one, see this area? This got erased off. Now some of you might ask, why not erase it? Okay, why not, let's go ahead, let's go back. Why not take the eraser and erase it? That's pretty much the same, right? But here's the thing. If you, by mistake, if you exceed the limits, for example, if you did just that, there is no way of getting this area back, right? It's destructive. Once you erase it, you erase it. There's no information in the pixels. But when you do it with the masks, it's non-destructive. So to remove an object or to make an object appear or disappear in particular areas of the image in a non-destructive way, if you want to do that, layer masks are the ones that you want to use. So let's go back. Instead, what you do in layer mask, when you create a layer mask, the area that you paint with black, those areas disappear. The area that you paint with white, those areas appear. So in this, as you can see, let me just change my thumbnail size. So large thumbnails, look at the thumbnail. The areas that are painted in white, those areas are visible. The areas that are painted in black, those areas are not visible. Is that clear to you? If it's not, let me know down in the comments below. And if you just want to see the mask, press and hold Alt or Option and click on it. This shows you the mask. If you want to go back to the image, press and hold Alt or Option again, click on this again. Okay, so let's go ahead and take on the comments. Okay, how to decrease the brush size or increase the brush size. Okay, this is a shortcut that I learned a year ago, and this is one of the best things that I've ever learned to speed up your workflow. Press and hold Alt or Option. Okay, press and hold Alt or Option. The right mouse button, hold it. Drag it to the right to make it bigger. Drag it to the left to make it smaller. Drag it up to make it soft. Drag it down to make it hard. Make sense? Alright. Now, I would normally change the blend mode to maybe screen and do stuff. And if you erase something extra and you want to get it back, simple, paint it with white. Change the foreground color to white. And by the way, the shortcut to change the foreground and the background color, to toggle between them, X is the key, okay? So X to toggle between background and the foreground color, and then you paint back in the areas that you want, okay? Now, this looks really amazing. So if you go ahead and paint it, so if you want this area to be erased, as I told you, black, X, paint over it, and it's gone, right? So that's pretty much it about layer masks. Now let's get to some tips. But before we get to some tips, let's take some questions. Thank you. A lot of people watching. I'm so happy to have you guys. Now let's talk about the first tip. The first tip we're going to be talking about is negative masking. So I have a couple of examples. This was example 1. So let's go ahead and open example 2. I have everything prepared for you guys. So let's talk about negative masking. So this is a picture, and I want to have textured highlights on the walls to bring out the drama in the photo. How to do that? If you remember from my blend modes tutorial, I talked about the blend mode which brightens things up. So what was the blend mode which brightens things up? Screen, right? So all you have to do, create any adjustment layer. Okay, so instead of making a copy of this, you can create an adjustment layer, any adjustment layer like levels, okay, and change the blend mode to screen. This brightens up the whole thing. Now before I talk about layer masks, let's talk about one more essential thing, and the essential thing is this. So whenever you apply these blend modes, for example, you want to increase the contrast, what we usually do, we make a copy of this layer, we change the blend mode to overlay, and we increase the contrast. That's what our workflow is. But here's the deal. If you make any changes to this one, for example, you erase this building off, let's do that, okay? Let's, for example, you take the eraser, or maybe you clone something out. So with the patch tool, you clone something out, just like this. But it's not totally gone. Why? Because if you make any changes to this, you also have to make changes to the background layer. And that's kind of a demerit of this. So you need to be completely sure, or use this method, which I prefer, which I suggest. Okay? This method is the best. Instead of making a copy, what you do, you create any adjustment layer. So levels or curves for that matter, and don't make any changes on the properties of the adjustment layer. And change the blend mode to overlay or anything you want. It does pretty much the same thing. It acts as a virtual copy of anything that's beneath it. So that's better. Now, we want to change it to screen, but it brightens up the whole photo. We want to brighten up certain areas of the photo. Here's what you need to do. Okay? You have to change this mask into black. Okay? To change this mask into complete black, to invert this mask, all you have to do, so this was our second tip, controller command I. This creates a black mask. Now you can go ahead, take the brush, and paint the areas that you want to brighten with white. For example, this area. You want to give a tinge here, maybe a little bit of here, maybe a little bit of bumps in here, a little bit. Have a look how interesting this looks right now. Right? Interesting, isn't it? Now, have a look at the before and after. So this is the before, this is the after. What if you want to bring out the texture even more? Here's what you need to do. Open up Layer Styles dialog box. How to do that? Double click on the right hand side of the layer, or right click on it and choose blending options. Pretty much does the same thing. Do that now. Take the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. So let's do that. Now, as you can see, this is quite harsh. So what we want to do, press and hold Alt or Option and click on it. What it's actually doing is that it's deleting the dark areas of the layer which is beneath it, this, which it calls underlying layer, from this layer, from the brightening layer. So thus it creates a texture. So this is kind of hard. So press and hold Alt or Option, click on this. This will break up the slider, and then you can go ahead and smoothen it up just a little bit. Have a look. Isn't this amazing? Click OK if you're satisfied. Have a look before and after. Before, after adds that extra oomph factor. Make a copy of it to increase the oomph of it, and then control the opacity, and there you go. Isn't this amazing? Also, about creating negative masks, here's what you can do. If you are making a copy, or if you are having another layer of another image, so here's what you need to do. For example, you had birds or something like that, you had a different texture. Okay, so I'm just making a copy of this. In order to create a negative mask right out of the box, here's what you need to do. Press and hold Alt or Option and click on this mask button. This creates a negative mask straight out of the box. Okay, so before moving to the second tip, let's take some questions. All right. Brush. Britta, I used to do the same. I used to use the bracket keys, but when I learned the mouse thing, it really blew me off. Blew me on, off. I really need to work up my articles or grammar. Anyway, link to the photos. It's great to add texture. Cool. Link to the photos. I'll link it up. By the way, every photos that I use it by using this PiXimperfect Photoshop plugin. And PiXimperfect usually has a list of photos that I personally like. So I'll send you the link. It will show you all the images that I've ever used in my tutorials. So go watch that link and you'll have all the images at one place, which I have downloaded from PiXimperfect for my tutorials. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you go ahead and ask them. So, any questions? No? Okay, let's move on. So the second tip is mask view. Okay, so let's open up example number 3. We don't want to save it. Open up mask view. Example number 3. There we go. Let's change it to dark gray. By the way, to change the canvas color, all you have to do, right click on it and choose the canvas color you want. Medium gray, light gray, custom. You can set a custom color. So I'm going to choose dark gray. Choose anything which contrasts with the image. If it's black, don't choose black. You'll be confused where are the boundaries. So choose something which contrasts with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a desaturated skin look. I've already talked about this in my previous videos. So, but let's learn it up again. So make 2 copies of the layer. Okay, this is not a background layer. So Controller Command J, Controller Command J twice. Now turn off this and just go to images, adjustments, and desaturate. Now what does desaturate do? As the name suggests, it desaturates, takes away all the saturation. Now desaturate, click on desaturate, it makes it black and white. Now turn this on and change the blend mode to either multiply, soft light, overlay. Let's try soft light. Look at the skin. Isn't this amazing? Right? Now make a group of both of these. So to make a group of both of these, press and hold Controller Command, click on the second one, and Controller Command G to make a group of both of these. Now let's decrease the opacity. It's kind of too much. I like this skin tone. Have a look at the before and after, before and after. But it affects whole of the photo. It affects his eye. It affects the background. We just want it to affect the skin. Here's what you need to do. You need to create a mask. Okay? So instead of creating a white mask, let's create a negative mask. Press and hold Alt option and click on this. This creates a negative mask. Now let's go ahead, take the brush and paint it with white. Paint this skin with white. There we go. Isn't this fantastic? Okay, there we go. Just like that. Okay. Look at that. Maybe have a look at the before and after. So before, after, more dramatic look, right? If you want to make it even more dramatic, you can change the blend mode of the inside layer to overlay to make it more dramatic. It's totally upon you on what you want to do. So let's soft light. I kind of liked overlay. Okay, have a look. So this is the before, after, makes ton of difference. Now, suppose you were painting through this and you missed a certain area, just like this. So here's the deal. Press and hold Alt option, click on the mask, and this helps you figure out which areas you missed. So this was tip number 3. Tip number 3 is this. If you want to see the mask, press and hold Alt option, click on that mask. It will show you what you have done in the mask. Then you can go ahead and fill up the areas and get back to the image by pressing Alt option and clicking on this, and you're back to the image. So tip number 3. By the way, tip number 7 and tip number 8 is my personal favorite. It's something I found out by using Photoshop for years and years. So make sure you stay tuned and you don't want to miss it, right? It's about apply image with masks. It will be fun. It's not the one that I've created a video about, something different. You'll have a lot of fun. Okay, so let's take some questions. So, hey, Andrew's messaging me. Let me just reply to him. Okay. So there we go. Download pixels, cool. It's great to add texture. If you guys have any question, guys, ask it. Comment. Comment is right empty there. So write something, guys. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the second, maybe the third. The third example is something really fun. Not so much fun exactly, but you'll love it. So we'll open the fourth example, but the third in my sequence. Okay, there we go. What was about it? Okay. So here I have an image of a man. Let's turn it black. Let's make it medium gray of a man. And here I have this. So if you want to create double exposure, simple. He's wearing black, right? So we want to brighten it. So what's the blend mode which brightens up things? Screen. Let's change the blend mode to screen, and there you have a kind of double exposure. Not that awesome. Let's go ahead and decrease the opacity to see how it looks. Looks pretty cool. Maybe you want to use it with blend if, and want to decrease the, just like that. What about darkening this? To darken this, create a levels adjustment layer. Let's go back to this blending options, make it normal. Let's create a levels adjustment layer and click on this gray white icon and choose levels and make the darkest area darkest. Make the darkest area completely black. To do that, it's simple. Click on this eyedropper tool and choose the darkest area. It expands the dynamic range. Have a look. It makes the darkest area completely black. All you have to do, choose this eyedropper tool, click on the area that you think is the darkest in the image. So now let's go ahead and try this. Now this looks much better. So let's go ahead and decrease the opacity to somewhere around this. Now this looks fine. Now you can go ahead and blending options, and there, just like this, you can do something like this. Now it looks pretty much fine. Have a look. So this is the one, but it has actually gone into his mouth, right? So we want to add a mask. Okay, take the brush, paint it with black, just like that, right? Now the tip is this: if you want to see, this is not looking so nice. If you want to see how it looks without the mask, if you're confused as to what it looks better with or without the mask, here's what you need to do. Press and hold shift and click on this. This turns off the mask. Press and hold shift and click on this again. This turns on the mask. So that was tip number 3. Okay, so any questions? Let me go ahead and search, see what questions you have. I struggle masking around the hair. Do you have adjustment layers help? Yes, you can take help of adjustment layers. By the way, watch my tutorial on how to select difficult edges. That's on YouTube. Go ahead and watch that, where I explain when you cannot see the edge, how to take advantage of adjustment layers to make a better selection. So make sure you watch that. Okay, when I use Alt plus right mouse to change the brush size, the red filling color doesn't appear at all. How can I get it back, please? You will have to go to the preferences, Arnaldo. In the preferences, there's something with the brush which you can change. Just go ahead and just search on Google how to bring back the red and using the preferences. So it's in everything is in the preferences. Also, there's one more thing similar thing about quick mask. When you go ahead and select quick mask, you double click on this. There is thing masked area, selected area. You want to fill it with red. How much opacity do you want? There's a similar thing with brush in the preferences menu. So if you're using a Mac, it's under Photoshop menu, then preferences. If you're using Photoshop, it's edit, then preferences. So in preferences, appearances, brushes, there are a lot of tons of stuff that you can, it's very easy to do. Just go there. If you're still unable to do it, let me know. Okay. Now, let's come to 4th tip. So what's the 4th tip? So for 4th tip, we got to move to example number 5. So it's kind of a number ahead, but that's okay. It's example number 5. The 4th tip is this. For example, this flower is beautiful, right? Now, what if you wanted to add an extra layer of color here? How to do that? Well, add a Huesaturation adjustment layer. Simple. Just check on color. Okay. I just forgot you could not see anything there because there's my screen. So click on colorize. Once you have clicked on colorize, then you choose the color you want. Maybe blue or something like that. And that's pretty much fine. Now we want only this area to appear blue. So create a negative mask, Control Command I. And when you create an adjustment layer, it comes with a white mask. So you need to invert it. There's no other way around there. So you want an extra layer just like that. I'm doing it really quickly. Okay. Something like that. And if you paint it extra, paint it with black. There you go. Done. Now if anytime you want to change the colors, double click on it and change the hue, and you'll be able to change the colors. For example, you like this color. Okay. It's pretty much good. Maybe I think I like purple. Now you want to brighten up the same area. So what you would do, you would create a curves adjustment layer and then brighten up. But this brightens up the whole image. Would you go ahead and create the mask again? No. You have already created the mask. We don't want to create the mask again. Here's what you need to do. Press and hold Alt or Option. Click and drag it and leave it to the curves. Replace layer mask? Of course, yes, we want to replace. So now it has the same identical mask as this one. So this was the, I think, fourth tip. So copying masks, replacing masks to make a copy of the mask. Alt or Option, drag it, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Now you can maybe increase the contrast, do certain stuff like that, have fun, so on and so forth. I hope that helped you. Now let's go ahead and move. This is a sample of event tomorrow. Yes, it is. Hi Andrew, how you doing? Is it over? What's Lizette? It's not over. I'm going on. So there's a, hey, is it? It's not over. Is everything all right? The network had some issues. I guess. Is the video speed all right? Just let me know. There's a technical issue there. Okay, it seems to be all right now. Okay, it's fine. So there was an internet issue, the network issue just dropped down in the middle. So I don't know what's going wrong with my internet right now. So it's back to normal speeds, I guess. So what we were talking about, somebody asked actually, what is the difference between negative mask and regular mask? Let's understand that. Negative mask and regular mask. Simple. Negative mask is a black mask. Regular mask is a white mask. That's pretty much all it. So if you want to create, let me just make you understand it. Again, if you have doubts, you have to have your fundamentals right in the beginning. So if I was to create a layer, say any layer, make a copy of this layer and change it to say overlay and maybe soft light, creating a negative mask, maybe screen, choosing something which is visible, right? So negative mask is nothing but a black mask, which means nothing is visible. And in that black mask, you paint with white. Normal mask means a white mask. In that mask, you paint in black. You erase the area that you don't want. In negative mask, you make the areas appear. Now, you can change a negative mask into positive mask and positive mask into negative mask very easily. If you just go ahead, create a mask, paint it completely with black, just like that, it becomes a negative mask. Right? It's taking some time, but it will do the same. Have a look. It creates a negative. Negative mask is not, don't get confused. Negative mask is just a mask filled with black, and that's pretty much all it in it. Okay? You still have the doubt? Britta says the issue I have is that the sound and the video is not always synchronized, off and on. Is it fine now? Actually, Facebook has a little problem. You know what? YouTube never has a problem with sound. It never has a problem with lagging. YouTube is my way to do live most of the time. Also, in YouTube, it has a feature where it allows you to see the chat at the side. So that's why I love YouTube for live streams. Facebook is great because a lot of my friends are like you are in Facebook. So yes, there's a trade-off there. Okay. I understand. It also happens with me. The Facebook, I have always issues with Facebook. But I hope Mark Zuckerberg does a thing or two. Okay, learn something from YouTube. Even though, by the way, Facebook is in competition with YouTube right now. Anyway, moving on to the fifth tip. Fifth tip is active selections to mask. Okay, let's move on to the fifth tip, which means sixth example. I have everything ready for you guys. This afternoon, I just sat, got everything ready. This is a handsome guy. What do you think, ladies? Anyway, so, for example, you have maybe a selection of him. Let's make a selection of him. This blunt selection of this guy. And just very rough selection. I'm doing a very poor job here, but you'll get the idea what I mean, right? Okay, so suppose this is the selection. Very rough. quite rough. Let's go ahead. So we have the selection now. Now suppose let's create a curves adjustment layer. Now here's the fun part. Fun part is this. With the selection active, with any selection active, if you create an adjustment layer, any adjustment layer, maybe curves, it turns the selection into a mask. The area that is selected, it turns it white, and the area that is not selected, it turns it black, which means the area that is selected, it applies the effect just there. Now, what if you want to brighten the left side of his body and leave the right side of his body? And you already have spent hours and hours making the right selection. Maybe you were compositing or stuff. So you brightened it up. Okay, and maybe change the blend mode to luminosity to not affect the colors. Now, maybe you increase the just a little bit like that. Now you want this effect just on the right hand side of his body. So if you go to the mask, and this is the wrong way, go to the mask and paint with black the right side of his body, sorry, the left side of his, whatever, the right side of his body. If you erase it and you want the effect just on the left hand side, okay, suppose you erase the right, this side of his body, and you wanted the effect here, okay. The problem here is, if you want to get shine in this area back, the selection is now gone. You cannot get that back. You'll have to manually paint in. It will take a ton of time, you know, so it will spill and it will create problems. So instead, how about creating double masks? Now, what are double masks? You know that a group can have just one layer, right? Excuse me. A group can have just one layer. And group can also have a mask. Are you understanding where I'm getting on with this? So if we go ahead and create a group and create a mask for that group, we still have this mask intact. Now if we go ahead and erase this area with black, paint this area with black, it's gone in this mask. Okay, very nicely, it's gone. Here's the fun part. If I paint this area back on, this will not spill. Why is it not spilling? Because I already have this mask here. Anything which I do here in this group mask is going to happen only in the active selection of this mask, in the active area of this mask. Did you understand the concept of double masks? Did you? Did you not? So let me just make it really clear for you. Let's make it completely white, okay, to make you understand. And now let's delete the mask of the group. Delete. Now, suppose you want to erase the white from some areas of his body. If you click on this mask, paint these areas with black, and you want to get some areas back just like that, that's gone. That fine selection is gone. Instead, what we do, create a group, put that in that group, create a mask of the group, and then paint it with black. Anything that you do here, even if you paint it with white, nothing will spill out this area. Isn't that interesting? And this has a lot of uses. The possibilities are limitless. Okay, so this is the trick of double masks, right? Let's take on some questions if you have some. All right. Better now? Good for me in the US. Mark, are you listening? Who is Mark? Where is Mark? Anyway, when I open Camera Raw, it shows highlights as red. It will show highlights as red. Let me just quickly solve it for you. Okay, let me just solve it for you. So if I go ahead, open Filter Camera Raw, it should show highlights as red, which brings me to another tip. I'm not sure whether I should give out the tip or not, because that's for my next video. Because if I give out the tip right now, you won't watch my next video. So I'm not giving out the tip. But let me talk about those red marks. When you increase the highlights, right? Let me do a little something. When you increase the exposure, maybe the highlights, see, this area is turned red, which is a good sign. And you should edit with these areas red. Now, what is it saying? it's saying that the marked areas or the red areas are so bright that they are losing details. The marked areas are completely 100% white. The pixels in the marked area, they have RGB values as 255, 255 and 255, which means it's completely white. And when anything gets completely black or completely white, there's no texture in it. There's no details in it. And to figure out which areas are getting completely bright, Adobe has given this markers. And this is called clipping. Clipping is when the signal, any signal, audio signal, video signal, video image only, goes beyond the dynamic range of the screen. So screen has a particular range it can show, right? Maybe 7 units. Our eyes can see 14 units. Some cameras capture 12 units. So cameras have more dynamic range than the screen can show, but to avail that, you need to capture in RAW. So it shows you which areas are beyond the limits of the representation of the screen. So the areas which are beyond the limit of which screen can represent. So you need to bring down the highlights so much so where the red areas just disappear. Okay? And when you decrease the blacks, you'll see some areas go blue. Right? These areas go blue. So you have to increase the black so much so that the blue areas don't appear. And if you don't want the red areas to appear, all you have to do, click on this, it won't show. Click on this, it won't show the dark blue areas. So that's pretty much it. Hope that answers your question. I'm going to cancel that. All right. You guys have any other questions? Make sure you go ahead and ask that. So group multiple mask, active selection to mask, I have done that. So let's move to example number 7. In this example, we're going to be talking about apply image, and this is really important, guys. Do not miss it. If you have watched up until now, this is something new and you do not want to miss it. All right, in this one, for example, you created, guys, are you with me? Let me just go ahead and check the comments. It's pretty much good. All right, now for example, suppose we created something called a color lookup adjustment layer, and we chose a filter, for example, late sunset. Now we kind of love this filter in the highlights, but we don't like it in shadows, or we don't like it in certain areas. So all you have to do, and now this is the trick, with the mask selected, not this one, with the mask selected, go to image, apply image. Now what that does is that it limits the effect just to the highlights. Have a look at the mask. It has created a mask of the RGB combined channel. Now if you want to try out other masks, red. Now what it does, it gives you the mask of the red channel. Green, it gives you mask of the green channel. Blue, it gives you mask of the blue channel. I kind of love the blue channel. Click OK. Have a look. Before, after. So it gives a nice yellow tint to it. You can also go ahead and use this mask also in curves. You can also add a vibrance adjustment layer, increase the vibrance just a little bit, just like that, and so on and so forth. Let me give you a few more examples. So example number 8, and this is the last example. Hey, I think this was the last example. Anyway, no, I do have example number 8. So what if you want to bring out more details in the sky? In this image, I've already created the curves. So let's go ahead and create a curves. We decrease the value of curves, right? This darkens up the whole image, but we want just the blues to be affected. You will go to image, apply image, make sure the mask is selected, apply image. If the mask is not selected, apply image won't apply. If this is selected, apply image will be grayed out. Okay, then you'll have confusion. Make sure mask is selected, then go to image, apply image. Now select the blue channel. Simple. See, just the blue is darkened. See the mask, the blue channel, right? Click OK, and there you have it. Now if you edit it, just these blue areas are affected. Isn't that interesting? So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all the tricks I had to give about layer mask today.